Hi, and welcome to my first impression / 3-day review of the Apple Watch Ultra. I've had it since Friday, so I've had Friday and the weekend to play with it, and in this video I quickly want to show you around the watch and tell you what I think about it. I'm coming from a slightly different perspective than most people reviewing this watch, because I did not buy it for the fitness tracking features. I do some sports, but not even remotely enough to warrant buying a €1,000 watch / $800 in the US. I actually bought this mostly for battery life, because I use the Apple Watch as a phone replacement. My iPhone stays in a drawer most of the time, and I just use the Apple Watch when I go out of the house, together with a pair of AirPods Pro. Sometimes when I go out and I know that I'm going to have more work to do, I also take an iPad Pro, but for almost all of the cases where I leave my house, it's really just the Apple Watch. I use it for taking phone calls, doing all kinds of messaging, email, messages, pretty much everything that I need to do on a day-to-day basis. And Apple Watch Series 7 has already been quite good at this. But I have to say, it was quite a tight fit with the battery life. I had to charge it twice per day with the quick charging and had to be on a very specific charging schedule to make it through a whole day. With Apple Watch Ultra, I'm hoping to resolve this issue and really use it as a sort of worry-free phone replacement on my wrist. So let's get into it and let's see what it's all about. As the first quick point, I want to show you the unboxing. I'm obviously already wearing the watch, so it's not so much of a first time unboxing, but I still want to show you what you get when you unpack this thing. So let's turn around the box and see what's inside. Looking at the box for Apple Watch Ultra, it's essentially the same thing you're getting with all the Apple Watches, except that it's a slightly different sort of aspect ratio. It's a bit wider and a bit less long, I guess. There's no plastic on the box, so unpacking it really just comes down to pulling these two sort of latches. And once you did that, the whole thing just unwraps for you. And it comes with this cool mountain picture that is made up of the booklet and the actual, sort of wrapper around it. The booklet itself gives you some information about how to use the watch, some initial setup, some charging steps. Really, if you had an Apple Watch before, there's nothing surprising you in here except maybe for the action button. But there's not too much to it, to be entirely honest. So really, you can mostly ignore this. And then you get two boxes with the actual content, the first one being the actual watch. So if you lift this for the first time and open it up, you sort of get the watch on the left side, and you also get this little sort of package that contains the charging cord. I actually did not unpack this yet because I still have my fast charger from the Series 7, but what I noticed is that this is a braided cable, the same one that seems to come with the new MagSafe cables for Mac. So I really like this. I think it's a good change, and I don't think the old cables had it. I'll verify, and if they did have it, I'll put a comment, but I think they didn't have it. Putting aside the actual Apple Watch box, on top of that, you get another box with your band of choice. In my case, I went with the Alpine loop. In contrast to the past, the loop is not on top of this package anymore, but it comes on this little cardboard tray, and really there's nothing else to it. So this is all the packaging you get with Apple Watch Ultra, and with that out of the way, let's get into the actual watch. The first thing I quickly want to talk about is the form factor of Apple Watch Ultra. It's obviously a bit bigger than Series 7, but at least on my wrist, I don't think it looks too big. I don't mind the size. It's also a bit thicker, but again, I don't really mind. I've worn it under my clothes for 3 days and it hasn't been a problem, it hasn't gotten in the way. So I do actually like the form factor. And obviously the styling is a little bit subjective. Personally, again, I do like it. The only thing is maybe the orange buttons are not everyone's first choice, including me actually. I would have probably preferred a different color if I would have been given the choice, but I also don't mind the orange. When it comes to the actual case, it's made of titanium, which in contrast to all the watches I had before, which were made from aluminum, it's actually a little bit of a darker silver. And that's actually almost everything that I want to say about the outside. Well, I actually do like the flat screen, but really that's it. So otherwise it's just an Apple Watch with the little crown guard here, the extra button, and the slightly bigger speaker grill. It just looks a little bit more serious, honestly, than the other Apple Watches, but nothing groundbreakingly different, and I dig the style. With that being said, there's one thing about the form factor that I actually don't like, which is the new digital crown. Now it's a little bit bigger than the old digital crown and more sort of coarse, and in my case, if I sort of turn my wrist a certain way and spin the digital crown, it actually scratches my skin underneath. So that's not ideal, and when I sort of try to turn the digital crown, I actually sort of need to grab the watch and then turn it to get a better grip on it and sort of lift it up a little bit from my skin to not scratch myself. Now, it's not a big deal, and honestly also turning it while it's touching the skin is not a big deal. It can be done and it doesn't hurt or anything. I just think the old design was actually better, because with the Series 7 I never had this problem. The digital crown never actually touched my skin. With the watch out of the way, let's quickly talk about the band. Now, I chose the Alpine loop, and I actually think it's incredible. It's the best band I ever had. In the past, I tried all of these. Basically, the plastic Apple Watch Sport band, sort of the one that came since the first Apple Watch, just in different colors, which is this sort of silicone. Then I tried the Milanese loop. Now, this admittedly is not the one from Apple, but it still works. I tried the nylon straps, and I also tried this leather band. Now, these silicone bands never really worked for me because I got a little bit too sweaty under them, so I couldn't wear them for very long, and I didn't find them particularly comfortable after some time. The Milanese loop, at least the fake ones, never really worked for me because the magnet would come off a little bit after some time, and then it would get more loose and loose over time. So not a gigantic fan of these, but I do like the look. I think if you get a real Apple one, it's probably not a problem, but it's a bit too expensive for me to justify for a band. When it comes to the nylon loops, these are actually the bands that I by far put the most amount of time in. I have one in black and one in white, and with my Series 7, I wore the black one almost exclusively for a year now, and I actually do love these. What I have to say though is that the Alpine loop gives me a more sort of snug feel, and it really doesn't move at all. Whereas these, I mean, they didn't get loose, but they didn't feel as secure as the Alpine loop does. And finally, I have this leather band, which I do find looks better than the Alpine loop in a more dressed up scenario. But I don't like the feel as much as I like the Alpine loop. This is by far the most comfortable and sort of secure fitting band that I had with the Apple Watch. I can highly recommend it. I didn't try the other ones. I suspect they're quite good too. But this one for me personally, I loved my choice, and I'm really, really happy with the band. With all of these sort of surface level things out of the way, let's quickly talk about the battery life after 3 days of using it as a phone replacement, so on cellular. Now, it actually is looking very, very promising. I charged this watch the first day at roughly 10 a.m. and put it on and then wore it without charging it again. Now, admittedly, I didn't use it on cellular immediately because the SIM card activation didn't work right out of the box. This was probably on my provider and not on Apple. It activated after quite some time, but for a first impression, I then didn't use it on cellular at all until it was about dead or asked me to charge it. And it did more than 2 days. So that is already excellent and much, much better than I ever got with my Series 7. And then the third day, and also part of Monday now, I tried on cellular. And actually the first results I got when sort of doing FaceTime calls on the go, listening to music, streaming from Apple Music, replying to messages, etc. were really good. Now I'm gonna compile these into a more objective comparison for my full review. So if you sort of want to know if Apple Watch Ultra can be a phone replacement for you and for your use case. So what I'm planning to do for the full review, and what I'm going to do with this Apple Watch Ultra over the next couple of weeks, is I am going to use it as my phone replacement, just like I did with Series 7. However, this time I'm going to record how much battery percentage I lose by performing certain activities on cellular. And I'm going to rerun these tests a couple of times, do different things on cellular on the go, and then I'm going to compile this into a nice objective list that should tell you what battery life you can expect with Apple Watch Ultra. And you can judge for yourself if it's going to be a suitable phone replacement for your use case. There are obviously still downsides that don't come down to battery life, and I'm going to mention those for sure in my full review as well, so that you're not surprised that when you buy these Apple Watch, or that if you buy this Apple Watch, that it doesn't really suit your needs. But I'm going to try my best to outline all of this in the full review, because if you spend 1,000 euros or $800 in the US on this watch to be your phone replacement, then you should really be well informed. So stay tuned if you're curious about whether Apple Watch Ultra can really properly replace your phone. And yeah, the review is coming in a couple of weeks. Until then, it's been a pleasure having you on my channel. If you're curious about the next video and also others around Apple Watch and other tech-related stuff, then I invite you to subscribe to my channel. If you thought this video was good, hit the like button. And yeah, I wish you a great day. Thank you very much.